Here we're going to tie a stimulator. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start our thread. Just lay down a real quick thread base. I'm going to take my thread back up about 2/3 of the way. Now we need to tie in our tail, which is just some deer hair. So I pull out a clump of deer hair. I actually want to stack it, so I'm going to put it in a stacker. That'll get the tips nice and even. Now the tail on the stimulator is very short, so I measure it out. I just want it to barely poke past the bend of the hook. Do a loose wrap here. There we go. To have everything secure, I can draw up the butt ends of the deer hair. Trim those out of there. Don't worry if it's a little scraggly. We're going to cover most of it up anyways. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie in my wire. This wire we're going to use to hold down the hackle on the body in the next couple of steps. And it's very fine wire, like extra small, really thin. We don't want to add any unnecessary weight, so that's why it's so thin. So I tie that in right there at the back, right with the tail. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dub the body. For this I'm going to tie an orange stimulator, so I'm going to use some burnt orange dubbing. And I just coat the thread. Try not to put too much on at once. I just keep adding more as I work my way forward. Kind of build up a bit of a taper when we get towards the front half of the body. There we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in the hackle. We're just going to use a brown hackle, and I'm just going to measure it out here. Make sure it's about right. Looks good. I'm going to tie this in. I'm going to take that hackle and just spiral it backwards. Once I get to the back, I'm going to hold that hackle in place. I'm going to take that wire and I'm going to start to counter wrap it through all these hackles. I kind of wiggle it as I go through everybody. This will hold all the hackle in place. capture that wire, trim out the extra piece of hackle there, the stem. There we go. Next step is we're going to tie in the wing. For this we're going to use deer hair also. A little larger clump this time than we used for the tail. Now, for the wing, we don't want to make it too long. We want it to be just short of the tail. So I place it on top, I give it 2 loose wraps, and I slowly bite down. I'm actually going to bite through the fibers here. This will help secure them. I'm actually wrapping through all those butt ends. Keeps them from rolling. Then we can get in here and trim out all those butt ends very carefully. Don't worry if they're a little bit scraggly. We're just going to put some dubbing over the top of them, so it's no big deal. Once I've got them all cut out of there, I'm just going to try to secure it once more. There we go. Now the next step is to tie in the hackle for the front half of the fly. Use the same color hackle, that brown color. Try to tie it in so that first wrap lays back. There we go. Now we're ready to dub the head portion of the fly. And for an orange one, I'm going to use PMD yellow dubbing. I'm going to try to build a bit of a taper on this head as well. I want it to be thick towards the back, taper forward into a cone towards the front. Give it a little more here right at the end. There we go. Now we're going to take our hackle Give it some wraps forward. As we get to the front, capture it. Try to break it off as clean as possible. Then you are ready to whip finish. And that's all there is to a stimulator.